This indirect allusion to Ball of Fat choked the well-bred people. They said nothing. Cornadette alone laughed. The two good sisters had ceased to mumble their rosaries and, with their hands enfolded in their great sleeves, held themselves immovable, obstinately lowering their eyes, without doubt offering to heaven the suffering it had brought upon them. Finally, at 3 o'clock, when they found themselves in the midst of an interminable plain, without a single village in sight, Ball of Fat, bending down quickly, drew from under the seat a large basket, covered with a white napkin. At first she brought out a little china plate and a silver cup, then a large dish in which there were 2 whole chickens cut up and embedded in their own jelly. And one could still see in the basket other good things, some pâtés, fruits, and sweetmeats. Provisions for 3 days if they should not see the kitchen of an inn. 4 necks of bottles were seen among the packages of food. She took a wing of chicken and began to eat it delicately, with one of those little biscuits called Regents in Normandy. All looks were turned in her direction. Then the odor spread, enlarging the nostrils and making the mouth water, besides causing a painful contraction of the jaw behind the ears. The scorn of the women for this girl became ferocious, as if they had a desire to kill her and throw her out of the carriage into the snow, her silver cup, her basket, provisions, and all. But Loiseau, with his eyes, devoured the dish of chicken. He said, "Fortunately, Madame had more precaution than we. There are some people who know how to think ahead always." She turned toward him, saying, "If you would like some of it, sir? It is hard to go without breakfast so long." He saluted her and replied, "Faith, I frankly cannot refuse. I can stand it no longer. Everything goes in time of war, does it not, Madame?" And then, casting a comprehensive glance around, he added, "In moments like this, one can but be pleased to find people who are obliging." He had a newspaper which he spread out on his knees, that no spot might come to his pantaloons, and upon the point of a knife that he always carried in his pocket, he took up a leg all glistening with jelly, put it between his teeth, and masticated it with a satisfaction so evident that there ran through the carriage a great sigh of distress. Then Ball of Fat, in a sweet and humble voice, proposed that the 2 sisters partake of her collation. They both accepted instantly, and without raising their eyes began to eat very quickly, after stammering their thanks. Cornadette no longer refused the offers of his neighbor, and they formed with the sisters a sort of table by spreading out some newspapers upon their knees. The mouths opened and shut without ceasing. They masticated, swallowed, gulping ferociously. Loiseau in his corner was working hard, and in a low voice was trying to induce his wife to follow his example. She resisted for a long time. Then, when a drawn sensation ran through her body, she yielded. Her husband, rounding his phrase, asked their charming companion if he might be allowed to offer a little piece to Madame Loiseau. She replied, "Why, yes, certainly, sir," with an amiable smile, as she passed the dish. An embarrassing thing confronted them when they opened the first bottle of Bordeaux. They had but 1 cup. Each passed it after having tasted. Cornadette alone, for politeness without doubt, placed his lips at the spot left humid by his fair neighbor. Then, surrounded by people eating, suffocated by the odors of the food, the Count and Countess de Breville, as well as Madame and Mademoiselle Carré Laomedon were suffering that odious torment which has preserved the name of Tantalus. Suddenly the young wife of the manufacturer gave forth such a sigh that all heads were turned in her direction. She was as white as the snow without. Her eyes closed, her head drooped. She had lost consciousness. Her husband, much excited, implored the help of everybody. Each lost his head completely until the elder of the two sisters, holding the head of the sufferer, slipped Ball of Fat's cup between her lips and forced her to swallow a few drops of wine. The pretty little lady revived, opened her eyes, smiled, and declared in a dying voice that she felt very well now. But in order that the attack might not return, the sister urged her to drink a full glass of Bordeaux, and added, "It is just hunger, nothing more." Then Ball of Fat, blushing and embarrassed, looked at the four travelers who had fasted, and stammered, "Goodness knows, if I had dared to offer anything to these gentlemen and ladies, I would—" Then she was silent, as if fearing an insult. Luceau took up the word. "Ah, certainly in times like these all the world are brothers and ought to aid each other. Come, ladies, without ceremony, why the devil not accept? We do not know whether we shall even find a house where we can pass the night. At the pace we are going now, we shall not reach Totes before noon tomorrow." They still hesitated, no one daring to assume the responsibility of a yes. The Count decided the question. He turned toward the fat, intimidated girl, and, taking on a grand air of condescension, he said to her, "We accept with gratitude, madame." End of Part 1.